On behalf of everybody, just like to a round of applause for John.
My name's John Sweeney and I work for BBC Panorama at the moment, and I did a film called Putins Gamble about what was happening in the Ukraine, the shooting down of the plane, and in it I doorstepped Vladimir Putin.
Great, thank you for your panorama. We've all enjoyed it, and you are a very brave man to have asked Mr. Putin the question you've asked him. What brought you here today to the Ukrainian Institute?
Well, I was invited, but I do feel there's a disconnect, it seems to me, and this is my own view, not that of the BBC, between what's happening on the ground in Ukraine and how it's portrayed in most of the Western media. It feels like that this is an invasion by Russia, that there is, this is the evidence, there are many accents from Moscow, there are graves back in Russia of soldiers who've been killed fighting in the Ukraine, but they've ripped off their epaulets, their tanks and so forth have been whited out, and there's an issue because it feels like Ukraine is fighting a ghost army from Russia, but the evidence of this ghost army is there, and in particular it seems that there's strong evidence that the Buk missile launcher that shot down the Malaysian plane had come from Russia. Leastways, I have spoken to 2 eyewitnesses who spoke to the crew, and they thought they were Russian army. That's not an absolute fact, but that's where the evidence points towards. So it's concerning, isn't it, if our Western leaders continue to talk and break bread with Vladimir Putin, while at the same time there is an issue about where this who shot the plane down, and the evidence points at least to the rebels, and according to the eyewitnesses we interviewed, towards the Russian army.
Coming back to the covering of the story of the Malaysian airplane, we remember that back a while ago there was an aeroplane that gone missing, and of that story people have talked for weeks and weeks and weeks, and yet it seems that only a few days have covered the story of the plane being shot where 10 Brits were killed. Why do you think that is?
We don't know the answer to the other story. So where there is no answer, you don't know. At the moment the Dutch are investigating, they're the lead investigators in this because 190 Dutch people died, and they will take a long time, but I've been told that the Dutch, it may take 15 years, but they will investigate this. So there's a difference. There's a lot of stuff out there on the internet, on Twitter, about what happened to the plane that disappeared in the Southern Ocean. But at some point, the Dutch will find, I believe, who shot that plane down. And at the moment, the evidence is pointing towards the Russian side.
So we've heard also that the Ukrainian people are saying that the Ukrainian army is shooting at the residential areas. Some other people saying that it's the rebels who are shooting, and some are saying that there is a third side. Have you had any evidence at all of the third side?
No, this is essentially this is a civil war, and in civil wars terrible things happen. You've got to remember that during, for example, the Second World War, before D-Day, the RAF killed around 10,000 entirely innocent French civilians because they lived near major French railway stations. To defeat the Nazis, they did that. It was a bad thing to do, but to let the Nazis win was the worst thing. So the Ukrainian army position, I believe, is that they're fighting. Civilian casualties will naturally follow. There are no good sides in the civil war. It's tragic that the civil war has started. So the big question is, who started it and why? And again, the answer to that question appears to be towards the Russian side. I have no doubt that the Russian army, where the evidence points strongly, all of these, this motorcade, we showed it on Panorama, that's there. Also, I have no doubt the Ukrainian army has done foolish things. Some of the people may be fanatics. Some of the civilian damage has been caused by the Ukrainian army. It's a civil war, that kind of thing happens. At the same time, the Ukrainians would say, is it a civil war, or are we responding to aggression from the Kremlin? it feels like that's what's happened, and that is why Western sanctions are in place. So, but I mean, I covered the wars in Yugoslavia, and I just feel that now in the 21st century, the idea that we're still seeing a war in Europe, it saddens me so much, and the war should stop, and people in power in Western capitals, including London, should do more to try and stop it.
When will the mankind learn that wars only bring millions and millions of death and years of ruin? And when will we learn?
That question is above my pay grade.
That's a shame, because that's the one that many ask. And could this be the end of Vladimir Putin's career? Can it be at all that, despite the fear or whatever you call of the Western leaders, can this be the end of Vladimir Putin's political career at all?
Who knows? I don't know. All I do know is I asked him about the killings in the Ukraine, not just the Ukrainians and the Russians, but also the Dutch, the Malaysians and the British. I was talking about the plane, and he didn't answer my question, and that's bad. If you're in power, you should answer people's questions. So the question hangs over Putin. The ruble is sliding. His popularity in Russia, they say, is immense. But I question that. I don't know the answer to your question, but I do feel that until we know who shot the plane down and why, people like me, not just me, but many, many people, including journalists and lawmakers in Russia and in the Ukraine, won't stop asking that question. How do those people come to die?
And just a last question. Is there anything that you would like to wish to those of us who stay here praying for all the Ukrainians in London?
That's a difficult question, because I don't want to appear to be partisan, overly partisan, the one to the other. So I kind of don't want to answer that. But I do feel there is a current sentiment against kind of immigrants at the moment, and I just like to remind myself that my name is Sweeney, and that is an Irish name, and I am an immigrant. So I would say, welcome to Britain.